Call to order the regular meeting of the Common Council of the City of Platteville for Tuesday, August 22nd, 2017, and we'll start with roll call.
Ken Killian,
Here.
Eileen Nichols,
Here.
Tom Knoll,
Here.
Catherine Westaby. Here. Barbara Doss is excused. Don Francis will be late.
I think the last email I got was that he doubts that he will make it, so he's excused as well.
Barbara Stockhausen. Here.
All right, we're going to start this evening with a special presentation, the 2017 GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award.
Good evening, everyone. Last year, one of the commitments that we made as staff as we were going through the budget process was that we were going to work towards best practices in terms of our financial reporting. And so our goal was to achieve the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award. And thanks to the efforts of Barb Johnson and Valerie Martin, who are both here tonight, the rest of our finance staff, as well as our department heads. It's a tremendous amount of effort that goes into creating a GFOA Distinguished Budget document. It involves a lot more interpretation, a lot more graphs, performance measures. And one of the things that we started to do was to combine both the revenues and expenses in particular areas so that you can see them together instead of being in completely separate areas. There's a detailed analysis with respect to our TIF districts. It's been extremely helpful for us in terms of staff in being able to have a quick reference point for some of this data for some of us that are not in our financial system every day, but we think it's also a great tool for you as council members and the public as well. So I just wanted to acknowledge that we had received that award. In Wisconsin, out of all of the townships and cities and villages, school districts, technical colleges that might be eligible for this award, around 40 actually have this award, and nationwide it's about 1,500. And the GFOA is the professional association for government for financial officers and government institutions. And so you actually submit your budget document, and it's a peer review process against a set of very stringent criteria. And so we did get this nifty GFOA award padfolio, I guess, that we'll be storing in a careful. Secure place. But they also sent along a certificate of recognition for budget preparation that went to the person that was chiefly responsible for doing the budget, and that was Valerie Martin. So I will hand this over to Valerie Martin. I'm not going to ask you to come up here and make comments. But I did want to definitely call her out because it was a tremendous amount of work that went into doing this at a time when we had a lot of other work that we were trying to accomplish. So it was a significant achievement.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the staff and department heads and others who worked on it. It's really great. Next item is consideration of the consent calendar. The following items may be approved on a single motion and vote due to their routine nature of previous discussion. Please indicate to the council president if you would prefer separate discussion and action. First is the council minutes from our August 8th, 17 regular and August 15th special council meetings. B is payment of bills. C is appointments to boards and commissions, and this evening I am reappointing some individuals to the Community Safe Routes Committee. They would include Christina Fields, Cindy Tang, Tim Ingram, and Robin Fatzinger. Also in our packet, licenses, change of agent for Pizza Hut of Southern Wisconsin, a temporary Class B to sell fermented malt beverages for Platteville J.C.'s for the Dairy Days, which is coming up September 8th and 10th, a temporary Class B to sell fermented malt beverages and wine for the Friends of the Platteville Municipal Auditorium for a bluegrass band called Dead South, which will be at the auditorium on September 8th. So come to City Hall and enjoy that at our auditorium. And Platteville Main Street program for the Executive Director's Workshop Dinner, which will be held in Platteville. And that's going to be the dinner at the Jameson Museum on September 21st. Also in the packet, 1-year and 2-year operator licenses to sell or serve alcohol. And finally, a permit for a street closing from South Hickory Street to West Pine to Greenwood Avenue for St. Augustine's University Parish for the Newman Barbecue and Games on September 6th. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move that we approve the consent calendar as stated.
A second.
I have a question.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and Ken has a question.
Under the minutes, August 8th, the citizen comments, did you receive those questions from Tom Paulus?
This is with respect to assessments, is that right?
That's questions concerning the upcoming assessment.
Yes, we did receive those questions, but I did not bring them with me tonight. Our intent is to actually have, if we are able to have the city assessor come and visit our next council meeting, so he can address some of those questions on camera, not just for the resident who asked the questions, but also for anyone in the public who may be interested as well.
Well, other people have asked me similar questions. So that'll be good. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? So we have a motion and a second, and we'll vote.
Killian,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Westaby,
Yes.
and Stockhausen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Citizens' comments, observations, and petitions, if any, and I do have one this evening. David Nevins.
Hello, friends.
Your voice. I love that voice.
Couple of things that you need to know about. Number one, I look back on my calendar. This is 15 years. 15 years where I've been coming to talk to you about Welcome Weekend at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. And every one of those have been a memorable experience, and my hope is to make this just as memorable. Council members, in front of you, you have the schedule of events. Everyone else, if you are interested, UW Platteville webpage has the entire schedule of events. Yes, the students are coming back, and they will be moving in on Saturday, September the 2nd. So that would be a wise day for you not to drive around UW Platteville. We will be moving in somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 students and their parents. They will not be moving in, but they will be here. So there's just an awful lot of traffic. So I encourage you, you're always welcome at UW Platteville, but that might not be a wise day to be, especially by the residence halls. When you look at the schedule, you can see this year, one of the big things, I just listed the big things on this schedule for you. The football game, we have a home football game. We are playing George Fox University. Once again, I encourage you all to attend that. We're doing a great fundraiser at that event as far as a meal. We're working with a number of different businesses here in town that are providing the food, and it's an athletics fundraiser. That night is Playfair. The chancellor will be doing a welcome. That's over in the softball complex. You see, on Sunday, we work very closely in the morning with the Interreligious Council, trying to make sure that students have rides to all of our local parishes, local places of worship, so that they can worship if they choose. And then that afternoon, we do some stuff with Convocation, the Welcome Convocation, where we talk about everything from alcohol and other drugs to study skills to how to take tests to how to get connected to UW Platteville. It really is a phenomenal presentation. And this year, Wando, I don't know if any of you ever watch the American Ninja Warrior program. He's like a 5-time champion. None of you are as excited about this as I am. I can see that right now. That's okay. You're not the audience anyway. We're trying for new students. So there. How do you like that? That evening, we're doing this thing called Glow Campus. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped something. Sunday afternoon, we're doing Bridge Fest. And As most of you know, we usually do this downtown scavenger hunt. Businesses take part. They set up in the park across the street, all up and down Main Street. All the businesses are taking part. Because of the football game and some jockeying we had to do, we're doing something different. We're inviting businesses onto campus for Bridge Fest. We've got something, over 40 businesses thus far that have already signed up to have booths, tables, tents, along with somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 student organizations that will have booths, tables, and events happening. So it's going to be kind of a really big event. That's that afternoon from 4:30 until 8:30. Sunday night is the world famous Super Ball drop, and I only say that it's world famous because so many of our peer schools, our sister schools, are stealing this idea because it's really fun. Well, as you know, we work with the Platteville Fire Department. They bring the ladder truck. They drop 1,600 Super Balls. It's amazing. That evening is iXperia. Ken, I know how you like to either come to concerts or take in these events. iXperia this year, it's kind of a Glow Campus dance party. And if I were to describe it in terms so that everyone can understand it, it is kind of a dance party on steroids. In that Cirque du Soleil performers are on the stage at the same time that music is happening. You wouldn't believe when we announced this program just this week, and the sheer number of shares and comments that we've had on our Facebook pages. Thousands of students are really excited about this event. So it's going to be kind of a biggie. The last day is Labor Day, of course. We do a lot of on-campus programming. That's the night that we're doing the Taste of Platteville. All the pizza vendors are there. As you recall, I send them letters. We invite them to campus with the one caveat of they need to make sure that they bring enough pizza to feed 1,000. And they all do. So Domino's is there, Pizza Hut, Steve's, they all come and have just a ton of pizza. We do an outdoor movie. Everyone in TV land, all of you are invited to the movie. You just bring a chair or a blanket to sit on. It's on the west lawn right by the Student Center. This year we are watching Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So it's going to be a great movie. It's just a lot of fun. So feel free to bring your families. That's kind of it for the announcement sections. But Eileen and everyone, I know that you always expect a little bit more out of me. So here we go quickly for your information. This year's class who are coming to UW Platteville, they will be the last class born in the 1900s.
Wow.
Electronic signatures have always been legally binding. eHarmony for them. eHarmony has always been an algorithm for happiness. The Peanuts comic strip has always been repeats. I know some of us are. Never mind. The Panama Canal has always belonged to Panama. And last but not least, they, as toddlers, have taught their grandparents how to Skype. Are there any questions?
Questions, anyone? All right, sounds like quite an event.
Once again, thanks everybody. Hope to see you there. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right, that was the only request I had for the public comments. So we'll go on to reports. Housing Authority Board, Killian.
No addition.
Library Board, Nichols. Jesse, did you want to mention about September 10th, that there was going to be a celebration or an open house or whatever we're calling it? And also this weekend, 8th, 9th, or September 8th, 9th, and 10th will be Dairy Day, so.
Good evening, everyone. Jessie Lee Jones from the Platteville Public Library. On Sunday, September 10th, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., we're going to be doing an open house at the library. The hope is that we can capture some of those people that are visiting the community for the Dairy Days events, and we can give them some sneak peek behind-the-scenes tours of the library. And I think that pretty much covers it. Thank you.
Thank you. Airport Commission, Dawes is not here this evening, so we'll go on to the first action item, which is approval of city attorney request for proposals. Karen, did you want to make any comments on that, or?
I'll leave it to Administration Director Miller.
Okay.
Thank you. So we did discuss this at the last meeting. You had a chance to look through the proposed RFP And we did update the staff report. I apologize to Mr. Killian for spelling his name wrong. But Mr. Killian and I met, and he had some suggestions, which we did incorporate some of those into the RFP, and then some of those would be a part of the committee itself, the evaluation committee, in terms of how it will move forward with the RFP process. So if there's any questions from the council, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
I do have one, and it's minor, but in page 3 of 8, proposal form and content, letter of transmittal, you have the cover letter must include name, address, and phone number. Could you add email address?
Yes, we can. It does say in the next part of that sentence that it should include the name, title, address, telephone number, and email address of the person to contact who are authorized to represent the respondent and to whom correspondence should be directed. So I think we
Covered that?
intended to cover that through the contact person for the RFP.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
One is, what is going to be the distribution? How are you going to distribute this? How far and wide?
In terms of to those members of the committee, sir, is that what you mean?
In terms of
Oh, no, you mean the RFP
possible
itself.
candidates?
Well, it would be published in the newspaper that we are requesting proposals. And then beyond that, there will be certain firms and individuals that are within the region that we would send it to. And then also we would reach out to the League of Municipalities and ask them for any recommendations that they have as to firms that they think we should submit it to. Of course, we'd also take any suggestions from the council or and department heads of the city staff for their suggestions as to who we can submit it to.
Okay, my next question is, I got a copy of the job description for the city attorney, and underneath the required knowledge, skills, and abilities, it says in the job description, employee will be familiar with the details of the position to do it reasonably well within 6 months. So in this request for proposals, what is given as far as how soon the person, firm, individual should be doing the job well?
Yes, I had not noticed that in the job description, so thank you for bringing that to our attention. The RFP itself is detailed in terms of the expectations of the experience that respondents should have as far as handling legal issues for municipalities. So I would think that an incoming city attorney, having been through the evaluation process and having met the criteria in the RFP, would have the experience necessary to have them be performing well from day one, would be my expectation.
I would add to that. I mean, I'm not exactly sure why a job description exists for this position because it's not an employee. This is a service that we contract for. And so we will provide feedback to this individual or this firm as we work through, but the contract that we enter into with the firm will also have a provision that if we're not happy, if either side isn't happy, there's some way to exit the contract itself.
So I'm just asking how soon you expect the person to be, or firm to be proficient. So you're saying day one?
I mean, I think that's a very tough question. I mean, I think that they may be proficient in the sense of they understand the law and they have experience with municipal law, but there's a proficiency that also comes with just learning the organization and the players that they will be working with. So learning us, and that will take some time to build that proficiency in those relationships.
Aaron, I do have a question for you. Does this position need to be one person, or can it be a law firm itself?
No, the RFP specifies that it can be persons or people,
Okay,
law firm, and then we've also broken it out so that it could potentially be one firm providing both city attorney services and prosecutorial services, or it could be separate firms for each of those areas.
okay.
My next question is, do you think deadline of September 22nd, I believe that's the deadline, is that deadline too soon? Adequate for deadline? In other words,
Well, since we're recommending it, we think it's adequate.
pardon?
I said, since we recommended it, we're thinking it's adequate. We're working against a deadline in terms of Brian's retirement date. So we do feel like a month is adequate to get the word out and to get responses back. But it still also allows us to work in a timely manner to make sure there's some overlap before he retires.
Anyone else have any questions?
And the other one I have is, I did recommend some different numbers, different composition as far as the evaluation committee. And let's see, those are,
It's recommending 1 council member and 4 staff members, Ken, right now.
yes, I was recommending 3 staff and 2 council.
I personally have no problem with 4 staff members. I will say that when the city manager and Barb Dawes and myself met to set the agenda, we discussed having 2 council members. Barb Dawes did volunteer at that time to be a council member. I assume, Ken, that you have some interest. I have no problem though with the 4 staff members. I think that works. If we get too many people, in terms of more than maybe 2 council people, I think scheduling conflicts are more likely to arise. So if you're comfortable with 2 council people and 3 staff people, if someone makes that motion, then that is what we did discuss.
Well, I move that we have 2 council members as appointed or potentially appointed, and 3 staff, probably determined by the city manager. My reasoning is 5 is a good number. Otherwise, it gets cumbersome.
No split votes.
Correct.
I would just chime in on our end, that we thought it was important that we did have specific staff members in mind because they interact a lot with the attorney. So our police chief, community development director, the administrative services director, and city manager were sort of who we had in mind in terms of the staff members that would be participating.
Who did you say?
Police chief,
Okay.
community development director,
And
administrative services director,
so you're going to,
and city manager, myself.
so 4 staff?
That's what we were thinking in terms of selection, because those positions do interact a lot.
It's the person to break the tie.
I understand that there could be the possibility of a tie, but it seems that
Okay.
unless, Ken, you're not interested in serving. Are you interested in serving as one of the council members?
If asked.
Okay.
Okay, I
Your
changed my
motion?
motion.
You made a motion.
Yes, I will change it. 2 council members and 4 staff.
All right, so your motion is to approve the RFP with 2 council members and 4 staff members?
Yes.
On the selection committee?
As presented for staff.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion to appoint 2 council members and 4 staff members. Again, we should appoint the council members this evening, so if you want to include the council members as Ken Killian and Barb Dawes, Barb, then we would
Yes,
have it
I'll
all
put that.
completed.
Ken, do you agree?
Yeah,
All right, so
Okay. Barb
we have
Doss and Ken Killian as the council
the
members.
2 council members.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the RFP? Otherwise, I think we're ready to vote.
Is there a second? Oh, we have a second, okay.
Yep, Ken has done the second. Okay,
Killian,
yes.
Nichols,
yes.
Dahl,
No.
Westoby,
Yes.
Stockhausen,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. That was our only action item this evening. We'll go on to information discussion, a sidewalk cafe permit for 9296 East Main. Joe?
Right, this is the former location of the, well, most recently, the Cold Fusion restaurant. Will now be Second and Main, opening soon, I'm not sure their date, September, early to mid-September. They would like to have the opportunity to include with their establishment outdoor dining area. So the request would be to put 4 tables and accompanying chairs in front of the building. Basically, it's a double storefront, so they would have the tables kind of lined up in front of the main windows to that building. As proposed, it would not block any of the entrances or exits to the building, and they would have the requirements met as far as access on the sidewalk, clearance space, which is required by the ordinance for pedestrians to come and go in front of there. So it would obviously be just opened when the restaurant is open. I think their intent is to bring the tables and chairs in when they close at night and then put them out the next day. The tables and chairs would be metal, heavy duty, so they would hold up. They haven't picked out the exact style yet, but they did have an example in their packet that they're looking at, trying to get the correct sturdiness and style that would match their building. They would, since this location, in addition to coffee and a cafe, would have alcohol. This request did go in front of the licensing committee, and at this point, they did recommend approval. The plan commission has to review this yet at their next meeting, and then it'll be coming back with a recommendation at the next council meeting. Any questions?
Okay.
Go ahead.
My question was, is this gonna become a sitting area for smoking? Like many people do, they go out on the sidewalk?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Because if it's a restaurant, extension of the restaurant, I find that confusing. If their clients or patrons will go there to smoke
Right.
while they're having lunch.
The applicant will be here at the next meeting, so we can get
Okay.
an answer to that.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, I have one about the tables and chairs. I'm reading second page, and it says, 1, 2, 3, third paragraph, each evening the tables and chairs will be secured or stored as to create additional room on the sidewalk for increased walking traffic to Second Street in the evenings. And then back in the, looking at the code, page 3H, so I'm looking at 4H. No sidewalk cafe shall be open for business between the hours of 10 and 7 a.m. All materials and equipment forming part of the sidewalk cafe shall be removed from the site when the sidewalk cafe is not open. So how is this all interpreted? So if they're not open, it means that they can't have tables and chairs on the sidewalk?
Correct.
Okay,
So when they close down for the evening, they take the tables and chairs inside.
but then this letter needs to be clarified, because the letter says, will be secured or stored. Does secured mean secured outside or secured inside? What is meant?
Well, frankly, it doesn't matter what the letter says. The ordinance says it has to go inside, so they will have to put
It
it
has to be
inside.
inside regardless. Okay, that was my question.
Any other questions? Comments? All right, next is contract 1517, street maintenance, thin overlay.
Yes, we do the thin overlays every year. This is a little bit later than normal due to the work we've been working on with the lead service lines, trying to get a lot of those ready and going. The budget is $105,000. In your list, I have a number of streets, all but the last four would get us to just over 110,000. I believe that we have enough money from other projects that would cover that additional $5,000. So I'll be recommending that we do all but the last four streets on the list, Washington, East Mineral, Furnace, and Pitt, with the money for this year.
Questions on that, anyone?
You're not including Pitt Street?
It was at the bottom of my list for this year, and so it would roll over to another year.
I'm personally happy that Market is on there. From Elm to Hickory, because
Yes,
in need of something.
because of this, the intent is to give it something that looks a little bit better until we can get to full reconstruction, hopefully in 2019. But that's part of the CIP process as well.
Right. Any other comments or questions on the steel coating or thin overlay? Okay, that concludes the televised portion. We're gonna go into a work session to discuss.
Council President.
We're actually gonna do it on?
Could I follow up on an item that was
Sure.
previously? So, Councilmember Killian had asked about the questions that that a citizen had brought up at the meeting I was not at on August 8th, and Administration Director Maurer had briefed me on this, and we had done some research, and I've forgotten about it for this meeting. But as I mentioned before, the city assessor is going to be here on September 12th, and so they'll be able to answer these questions in more detail. But I'm just going to talk a little bit from a theoretical standpoint. So when you're looking at assessing, there are different levels of service that you can engage in. Theoretically, you can value every property in your city every year to ensure that you're kind of dead on with that perceived market. That is, of course, incredibly expensive. I think there's a middle of the road approach where maybe you value quadrants of your city, and so every 4 years properties are getting reevaluated. But that also then costs some money. And then there's probably the lowest cost option, which is a maintenance contract where properties are being reevaluated as sales occur. And so the city of Platteville has historically taken the maintenance approach, which is the lowest cost approach, as do many other cities in the state of Wisconsin. So it's not necessarily an unusual tact. And so as you're looking at that data, then you may have years where you're falling out of compliance with the state of Wisconsin requirements. And it could be that you fall out of compliance one year, but you come into compliance the next year. And so there is a state requirement, though, if you get out of compliance for a certain number of years, then you're required to do a reevaluation. And that really prevents the entire system from getting too far out of sync. So the state really prohibits you from straying too far away from the true market value. In terms of the cost for us to do the reevaluation, we're also doing the physical inspections, which is something that I don't believe the city of Platteville had done for many, many, many years, which will definitely get us the best data possible. It will be $31,500 for 3 years for a total of $94,000, and that's in addition to the normal maintenance costs, which I think run about $17,000 a year. And so in terms of, what steps do we want to take to ensure that we don't find ourselves in this situation down the road? I'm not sure we're in a situation, but, certainly the council's decision, if they want to spend more, to have more precise data, or if they want to take the maintenance approach and just wait until the data appears to be out of whack and then spend the resources to invest in the broader study of the properties. So that's a decision that every community has to weigh out for themselves. But again, the state of Wisconsin sets a certain threshold, so you're only allowed to get out of whack so far. And of the 52 Grant County municipalities, 17 of them had one or more classes that were out of compliance with the state's requirements. So again, what Platteville is going through is not an unusual situation.
All right.
Hopefully that's a little helpful. But save your questions because they'll be here on September 12th.
Okay, great. All right, so now we'll go to work session, the 2018 budget goals. No, we'll just do that, and then after we're finished with that, we'll adjourn, so,
Okay.
all right. And I assume that we are doing it at, yes, at the table, so this concludes the televised portion of the meeting.